pleasure to be standing here for the 5th edition of Symposium on Computational Gastronomy and make certain announcements which are coming from IIIT-Delhi and the Complex Systems Laboratory. It has been a lovely journey for the last 8 years working in this esoteric topic where we are trying to blend food, cooking and artificial intelligence, to use the catchphrase, while at the same time we can as well stick to computer science, computing or data science for that matter. So let me take you through this journey very quickly and tell you about what we have been able to do, what we have achieved, to all the way reaching a pace where we are launching a startup and there is a popular science book that is coming out of the endeavors from the adventures that have lived through so far. So let me tell you about the topic, but before that, once again, a very warm welcome to IIIT-Delhi and to the Symposium. And this time we are also very happy to have more and more number of sponsors coming up, including our culinary partner IFCA, and we have our academic partner, the Institute of Hotel Management, PUSA, the IIT equivalent of culinary side, may I say. We have International Flavors and Fragrances, IFF, supporting us this time, and we have iHub Anubhuti, which has also supported us big way this time, other than the Infosys Center for Artificial Intelligence and our own startup adding to the technology bits and bytes of it. So I'm really thankful to all of them, as well as our media partner, Food and Beverages magazine, which is covering the event in addition to other people who are covering the event from a science communication perspective as well. To talk about capturing culinary creativity is an audacious thing, especially sitting in front of celebrity chefs who are here. I must say that. It is such an intricate process, a mechanism which we have developed as a civilization. To say that I am going to capture the millennia of elegance, skill and creativity in a computer program is way too audacious. But I guess today we stand at a juncture where we have seen the advent of ChatGPTs and the DALIs, where we can be a little more audacious and say that going beyond the space of text and audio generation and maybe image generation, we can think of possibly generating new recipes which are tasty and healthy. That's the direction I'm moving towards. To begin with, those who do not know about me, if you think that I'm a foodie, I am not. In fact, I started my journey as an aspiring astronomer, and today it has been a long journey from being an astronomer to gastronomer. So it's a fun journey, but at the same time a fun journey also. Cooking, the way I look at it, is something magical process where those who know cooking, whether they call themselves in a humble manner as a cook or a chef, they know how to put ingredients together. They have the knack of it. They have trained themselves at times and they sometimes have developed it on their own. Either ways, they are superb experts in putting together these ingredients, and while at the same time they are also fed with the traditions that have been passed on for generations. That's what our mothers do and anybody who cooks at home does for that matter. So this is a skill that has been passed on to us about how do you take raw ingredients, how do you cut them, chop them, mash them, put them together to create a delicious recipe out of it. And this ability of cooking has been central to what we are today, the strong Homo sapiens which are dominating the face of the earth. And it has been argued that our disproportionately large brain sizes have been by virtue of our ability of cooking, because none of our brothers and sisters in other species are able to do that. Nobody cooks the way we do, nobody has the kind of brains that we have and creativity that we have. While at the same time, the ability of cooking has been central to what we have become, the powerful species, looks like we are facing a trouble. The evolution has landed up in a space where we are facing with lifestyle disorders. It's an epidemic that we are facing today, and some of us are very passionate about it. How do you solve this problem of epidemic of lifestyle disorders, whether it is obesity, type 2 diabetes or cardiovascular disorders or some others for that matter? Well, can food also be central to solving this problem is another question that we can ask to ourselves. Another reason why, other than the health related and very human centric perspective that we take, is that of civilizational problem. We are one of the species in this nature and on this pale blue dot, as it is called. Are we going to survive in the next 3 decades when we will have a population of 10 billion? Will we be able to sustainably feed this 10 billion population and let Earth thrive as it has thrived so far? Is the question that we should be asking on this brink in 2023. And I guess the answer to these questions in a very from my own perspective will come from in a data driven perspective. All of us have seen how data driven perspective has helped us come up with fantastic solutions to many problems that we have faced so far, whether it is Google Maps, which has automated navigation, or for that matter short term weather prediction, which meteorology has tried to manage to do. And all of this have largely happened because of two interventions. One, large scale data collection in a meticulous fashion, as well as application of computational approaches on top of it. And this is what computational gastronomy tries to achieve. It blends food and everything that is considered to be art from food and cooking with that of the skills coming from computing, data science, and to use the in vogue term artificial intelligence. And this now is no more a journey that is happening within a lab and only an academic process. It has gotten plenty of visibility both in media as well as in academia, and our chef friends have been rather upfront in trying to come forward and draw inspiration from what we can do. And this has become a vogue thing today. When we look at food in my lab, we look at different dimensions of food. One is of course traditional recipes which I mentioned, but also at the same time we should not be forgetting about other aspect, which is the fact that ingredients are used by virtue of its flavor. We like the dishes because they are tasty, not because of anything else. We might be conscious about the nutrition part of it, of course, but at the same time the immediate response is by virtue of the taste and the flavor aspect of it. And of course long-term health effects, which is what we are talking about when we say lifestyle disorders. We need to account for all of this fact. So when I say computational gastronomy, we look at all of these angles. We have done it so far in the lab, and importantly not to forget sustainability. Everything that we eat, every dish that we eat has got its carbon footprint, which all of us have become aware, and we are trying to reduce that. So can we capture that in a data driven fashion is what we have worked on in the so long time. When I started this work way back in 2014 and 15, I guess one of the problems that we were facing is that if you want to deal with food and cooking from a data driven perspective, hello, where is the data? It was missing heavily. And when we started with very mediocre data, may I say, relatively. Today we can say that in retrospect, that we gathered from the web, and that included this lady, Tarla Dalal's data, which was meticulously collected, and she was one of the revolutionaries to come up with cookbooks to begin with, and later it. So we used her data to begin with our first investigation, and investigated the Indian recipes. That is where our journey began, and found out what are patterns in the recipes from Indian subcontinent and what are their culinary fingerprint, a characteristic pattern that uniquely distinguishes Indian cuisine vis-a-vis that of the rest of the world. That's what we did, and found that uniqueness of the Indian cuisine lies in couple of things: in the way we combine ingredients and how spices are very central. In our language, they are the molecular fulcrum of the Indian recipes. When we did this research, I guess we got the first attention from the chefs across from the world, definitely, wherein the media was very buoyant to say that scientists have figured out why Indian food is tasty. We didn't exactly say that, by the way, but that's how media portrayed it. And science communicators, of course, were very good at identifying exactly what we said, but we had actually found out a statistical pattern which spices are central in that. That's what we figured it out. And to our surprise, two things happened. One is that media, such as and even scientific world, academia, was very buoyant about it. MIT Technology Review highlighted it. For example, Chef Gill contacted us. I mean, he called me on my mobile and said that, Dr. Bagler, what you're doing is amazing, and we know the uniqueness of Indian recipes and Indian cuisine as chefs, but to come up with from a data driven perspective and to show it mathematically and statistically is something unusual, and we are very happy that you are showing the uniqueness of the Indian recipes, which we all know, but showing it in this manner is amazing, and that will do, it will go a long way in establishing the credence to Indian food practices. That's what he said. Now that was an old story. That was 8 years back. Today we stand at a place, we have one of the most comprehensive data of recipes, flavors, nutrition and health and sustainability. And this was one of the studies which actually highlighted the uniqueness of not only Indian, but also the world cuisines for that matter. 74 countries, 26 regions and their culinary fingerprints. Published by one of our research interns along with our research intern in what is considered to the Mecca of gastronomy, the Paris. And that's where we got the best paper award, and that's where the journey began. And today we stand at a place in our lab. This is the showcase of data and algorithms coming from our lab, wherein we have one of the largest, the global standard of recipes database, structured data of recipes and their ingredients, their flavor molecules, their health associations, and of course the sustainability angle of it. I would like to highlight that today therefore we are considered to be the ground zero of computational gastronomy, where lots of things are happening, and none of this could have happened without the young folks which are sitting here, the research interns and those who are presenting outside and those who are not here because of the exams, but they are the ones who are feeding this. So let's have a round of applause for these young folks. Thank you. I take pride in the fact that while I'm growing old, I keep staying younger by virtue of being surrounded by these young folks, and that's how the work is happening, without which it could not have happened. And today, what started as a question to begin with, later as a tool, and then as a technology, has become a vision. And the vision is that of making food computable. Every aspect of food, can we make it computable, is the question that we are asking. And while doing so, we don't mean to demean the cultural aspect, the traditional aspect. We want to highlight it. We would like to capture it. We would like to capitalize it rather than demeaning it. And that's what people in the audiences, from scientists, engineers, as well as chefs, appreciate that. That's what we have been trying to do. And therefore, it's a pleasure to be presenting the work on behalf of all my research interns and students about what we are trying to do here. Another thing that has been a pleasure for me, somebody, as I told you, came from astronomy aspirations, is that of seeing this work, for example, in various places in media. I'm just highlighting a couple of them here. One of them is the Science Reporter magazine, where we were on the cover of it. And in fact, the reporter who highlighted it is right here in the audiences. For me, it is an interesting journey. That is because, as somebody who is a small town boy from Sholapur, for me, this was a portal to the science and technology happenings around the world at that time, available for a very small amount of maybe 2-3 rupees at that time. And now, so far, having come from that place today, I see that the science that has happened in our lab has been highlighted as a cover page. Was an amazing journey for me to see that this is where we stand. It is not only in India, but globally, including a Paris-based magazine which has highlighted our work on how AI can be used, data science can be used in this direction. I would like to highlight a couple of things and conclude my pitch. One of them is that of something called novel recipe generation using AI and its tasting, which we have fondly named it as Turing Test for Chef, which we are doing in collaboration with Institute for Hotel Management, PUSA. So the question, therefore, that we should be asking is that how many recipes that human beings have developed so far traditionally? That number, when you count it, thanks to the repetitions of dishes that we do on a weekly, monthly and yearly basis, doesn't go beyond what, 1,000, 10,000 or maybe 100,000. Well, to the top of it, it's 1 million documented recipes. I do not want to ignore the fact that there are a lot of ignored recipes, which are not documented for many reasons. We should be accounting for those as well. But at the same time, the number doesn't go beyond 10 to the power 6 or 7 maybe, right? But then the number of recipes that can surely, by permutations and combinations that you can develop, is humongous. It's more than the estimated number of stars that are there in the whole universe. So those of us who are foodies should be salivating already, thinking what all can be developed, right? Well, then we are asking this audacious question about AI being capable of generating recipes. Can a machine think like a chef? An audacious question also because we do not want to at the same time demean the creativity and the excellence of chefs at the same time, right? Therefore, we asked this question and took inspiration from none other than Alan Turing, who wrote this paper, Can a Machine Think Like a Chef? Can a machine think, first of all? And we extended it to make it asking this question, can a machine think like a chef? And for my joy, Chef Gill, for example, was one of the early person when I requested him, can I make a spoof out of it and make it a little more personal? And that is what he agreed very sportingly. I really am thankful to him. Despite his stature and eminence, he was willing to play with the game. And he said that, can I ask this question? And when I asked him, he said, go ahead and do that. can a computer think like somebody like Chef Manjeet Singh Gill? Can it do that? It's, I think, very, very difficult given the fact that we are dealing with sensory mechanisms which go beyond text and visuals and touches upon olfactory and gustatory mechanisms which scientists are still struggling to make sense of, right? So it's very, very difficult, but we can be ambitious because AI has been so dramatic in molecular biology, trying to predict protein folding, trying to predict materials, new materials, maybe new recipes also. That's what we are thinking. And while we did it, it so happened that thanks to Chef Sanjay Thakur and one of his mentors, Thomas Gugler, Chef Thomas Gugler, who is the president of World Chefs, he also said that, you know, when I requested him, he said that you can also play with my title, and we made this spoof on him as well. And of course, not to mention Chef Sanjay Thakur, who is present in the audiences and has made it all the way from Riyadh. So we are trying to challenge human intelligence and expertise. Well, not really. We are trying to emulate it to some extent, and we are trying to see whether AI can be an enabler for human creativity from chef's creativity. And this is one of our early experiments. We are still playing with it, fondly called Ratatouille. I'm sure many of you have seen the movie Ratatouille and know how, what the movie says, what is the central message of the movie. In that, Chef Gustav says, can anybody can cook. That's what Chef Gustav says. We are saying, can a computer cook? And to begin with, can a computer actually generate recipes? And our Ratatouille algorithm, the primitive algorithm, the proof of concept is available for anyone to play with, actually generates recipes. But then you guys would say that that's not enough. Generating recipes is one part of it, but tasting is the real ball game. All right, you need to cook them. But before we do cooking, we are doing something else, which is that we have created an intermediate test, the results of which I am going to announce today, the primitive results that have come out, and we'll be improving on it, is that the Turing test for chef essentially checks the ability of computer generated recipes in fooling an expert chef into thinking that a computer generated recipe is real. A fake recipe, quote unquote, is real. Well, we have developed this interface which is being used to test in IIT Pusa, which again, thanks to our academic partner IIT Pusa and the principal of IIT Pusa, Professor Kamalkant Pant, who agreed to this, and students, final year students who are already into their professional journey who participated in this game along with some of the faculties, and wherein we started with this Turing test for chef, wherein real recipe or a fake recipe, a computer generated recipe, would be randomly flashed to the chef. They have to read a recipe like this and give their judgment on a scale of 0 to 5 whether it is real or fake. And when we did this, turns out that right now the present algorithms that we are having, which are in need of a lot of improvement, we measure it using what is called as an F1 score. The higher the better, between let's say 0 to 100, and we stand at around 69.9% today. So that's the success rate that we have achieved, which means, well, it is neither very bad, which is close to 50% or so, neither it's excellent where it is 90% or so, which means that there is a lot of scope for improvement. But what should I say, that let's have a round of applause for the computers because looks like computers have reached a place where, going beyond the other sensory mechanisms, they can try emulating, try capturing what a chef would do in the kitchen, all right, to some extent. And we believe that it would be an enabler tomorrow going forward. And if you can do it with recipes, then you can do it with anything that is having sensory mechanisms involved. It could be mocktails for that matter tomorrow that we could be doing. So once again, I would like to thank the IIT Pusa for this collaboration and playing with us. And we obviously are going to the kitchen. It's not stopping here. We'll be picking a few recipes which are in certain baskets. We call them true false positives and true negatives. And we will be literally cooking them in the kitchens of IIT Pusa and having sensory analysis done, and we'll have a results coming out of it. And I can vouch you that this will be the very first kitchen evaluation, tasting, pun intended, TASTING tasting of AI generated recipes done in the kitchen, and hopefully it will go for an academic publication. That's what we are trying to do. So that is one announcement that I positively wanted to make, that we have reached a stage where we can pause, contemplate, modify the models and take it forward in making it far better than what it is right now. I have been telling you about how people have been buoyant about it. 8 years back, people were either critical or they would not be paying attention to what we are doing, both academicians as well as industry. But over time, People have woken up to the fact that AI can actually transform the way we look at food, and it can help us coming up with data-driven delicacies. And that's what has been in the news for a while. All of this adventure that I've had for a while, starting from nowhere, absence of data, to creating databases and building algorithms and applications, which you have been seeing across in this symposium, it has been a long journey, an adventurous journey at the same time. It has been written, being written as a popular science book, and which will be, I'll be having the celebrities to come here and show the table of content of it, which will be coming up by the time the next symposium comes up. You should be hoping to have a copy of that in your hand. So these are adventures of making food computable, the journey of computational gastronomy that we shall be presenting. As I said, many industries have been working with us to make things happen, and it was a pleasure to be presenting computational gastronomy as the future of food at the Golden Jubilee celebration of the R&D hub of ITC, which is the LSTC in Bangalore. It was an amazing journey. While we are trying to make this happen at a creative domain, culinary level, and also trying to find out industrial applications, the other thing that doesn't let me sleep is that of what are the possible societal values that we can derive out of all the work that has been done and that is already happening around the globe, thanks to inspiration taken from our research. And sometimes I wonder what effect this will have on the society. One night I got an email from one guy called Alexander from Ukraine. He was saying that, you are doing a social injustice and a political injustice. I was wondering, what is this guy arriving at? And when I looked at it carefully, he said that, look, there is a recipe called borscht, which is a Ukrainian recipe, and in your database you have marked it as Russian. And that's a political injustice that you are doing to Ukraine. I said, I never imagined that as a scientist who always would wonder about stars and then move to gastronomy, would be doing a politically incorrect mistake. So it's an amazing thing to know that what kind of societal and economical impact thinking about food, working on food can have. So while of course I have gone ahead and corrected that, I don't want to receive a message from Russian embassy saying that put it back into the Russian quarter. Nonetheless, one of the things that we should remember is that there are many countries that are shown in this culinary tree, cuisine tree of the globe, by the way. Each of the branch is one cuisine, showing a relationship between other cuisines for that matter. Indian subcontinent is one, and there are other regional cuisines that are shown here. It includes both the global north of the world and the global south of the world. There are some problems which are common across the global north and the south, some of the nutrition related issues. And there are some very peculiarly present in only the global south, right from hunger, food security to some of the nutritional deficiencies. To me, it looks as if computational gastronomy is one amazing tool, approach to look at food by which we can possibly address some of these questions which are faced by the developed countries, developing countries, as well as underdeveloped countries. All of that can be done. And towards that, we are trying to put together a thriving ecosystem, tech ecosystem of food and technology, computer science, policymakers, government agencies, such that we can come up with interventions which are very much necessary across the globe, and definitely to this country, the India and the Bharat. We would like to make that happen. And finally, I would like to announce the startup which has come out of all the efforts that have been spent in the lab for the last 8 years in putting together data, models and algorithms that we have come forward with, and that will be announced, of course, the details of which will be given by my student teams, research intern team. But I'm happy to stand here and announce. There are two names that are flashing here for obvious reasons, but I'll come back to that later. Food Bites is the technical name that we have launched it with, and legally it might come out with a foodoscope depending on the approval from the government. But this is already announced, and again I should thank a big team of research interns which has made it happen. And this is one of the reason I feel so glad about it is that one of my favorite author, Nassim Nicholas Taleb, says that there are two very dramatic habits that you can have, or compulsions that you can have. One is that of salary and the other is that of calorie. So as an academician who is a salaried employee of a government, probably it was very difficult for me to get out of the shell and come up and create an entrepreneurship drive, create a company out of it, but that's already happening. And again, this could not have happened without all the people who have contributed, those present in the audiences and those who are scattered across the world today. So all I can say is humbly announce something which is coming out of our lab and will be used by the world. Most of the customers are actually outside India. So let's have one round of applause for that. The APIs, application programming interfaces, is what we are making available, and some of our affiliates and partners have used it and will be using it as we go along. And at this count, once again, I would like to take this opportunity to thank IIIT Delhi, the administration of the IIIT Delhi, the directors, the previous director as well as the present director of IIIT Delhi, for creating an enabling environment in an academic institution which is as young as IIIT Delhi, 15 years old, and policies which are so empowering that a faculty, for that matter even a student, will be feeling so enthusiastic of creating a startup or a company out of it. Finally, I would like to make the announcement of the hackathon. We created the APIs, we tested them out, we created the tools out of them. But then we also wanted to check what some bright youngsters would do if I were to provide them the APIs, what kind of ideas they will come up with. And that's where we ran a hackathon last month called, pun intended, Fork It. Fork stands for, of course, fork in on the plate, and Fork It also means is a popular term used by computer geeks for GitHub forking. So that is how this name was created, Fork It, and we held a hackathon. We had more than 15 teams participating. Overnight computation of creating tools out of APIs that we have provided them, and there are 4 teams which have succeeded. May I request the teams, winning teams, to please stand up and take a ovation from all of us. So thank you guys for enthusiastically participating and doing amazing work which has been judged by eminent technocrats who are available in the audiences. And we also have a young 9th standard student who has done fantastic job in creating a tool, who will also be one of the winners. I never expected, when we announced this, we thought that it's only the BTech, CSE, EC kind of student, engineering students who will be participating in it. But I was so glad that we had a student from 9th class and who did so well that the judges were also enamored, and they said that we must give consolation prize to for this student who has done amazingly well for his age and stage. So with that, I would like to close it here, and to conclude, to say what I always say in my talks is that it has been a journey from astronomy to gastronomy. I wish, or maybe I don't wish, I continued on my path. Had I continued on my path of astronomy, probably I would have been discovering new stars, new nebulas and galaxies perhaps. But today it looks like I have been discovering new dishes along with you and tasting them in the kitchen. And as Brilla Savarine, the person who wrote the book 200 years back, The Physiology of Taste, who coined the term gastronomy in the first place, says that the discovery of a new dish confers more happiness on humanity than the discovery of a new star. So I have something to relish, something to enjoy, something to feel good about, having lost the track of astronomy and having come to on the track of gastronomy. So thanks a lot for everything, and thanks for listening to me. We will have announcement, we'll have some things happening here. But then once again, thanks to the students and thanks to the sponsors. Before I close, I must thank all of them, and welcome to the symposium. Have a fantastic day at the symposium. Thanks a lot once again.